I used to make fun of people who believed in signs. The kind of people who see patterns in everything. Shadows, numbers, coincidences. They treat every strange moment like it's meant just for them. I always had a simpler rule. If something can be explained, it should be. If it can't be explained, then you just don't have enough information yet. That rule worked for most of my life. It worked right up until the playground appeared behind my building. I walk home through a narrow strip of trees most evenings. It's faster than the main road and quieter. I've taken that path for years. There has never been anything behind those trees except dirt, roots, and a broken fence that leads to a parking lot. 2 weeks ago, on a Thursday night, there was a playground there. It didn't look old. It didn't look abandoned. It looked carefully arranged. The sand was smooth. The swings hung perfectly still. The metal bars were clean enough to catch the weak light from a single flickering lamp nearby. There was no sound, no wind pushing the swings, no distant traffic, no voices, just a small, silent playground that absolutely had not been there the night before. At first, I thought I'd simply never noticed it. That happens. You walk past something enough times and your brain edits it out until one day it suddenly exists. Then I saw the bunny. It was sitting under the slide, facing slightly away from the path, as if it had been placed there to rest. White fur, long ears that curved at the tips, a round head with a stitched smile that tried too hard to look friendly. The eyes weren't visible, just dark shapes where the eye holes should be. Not glass, not fabric, just depth. It sat upright with its legs out in front of it and its hands resting neatly on its knees. Not slumped, not collapsed, balanced, like it had chosen that exact position and then decided not to move again. My first reaction wasn't fear, it was irritation. I remember thinking, who leaves something like that here? It felt like a prank with no audience, no kids, no houses close enough for someone to watch reactions. Just a silent bunny in a silent playground. I didn't go in, I just kept walking. The next night I took the same path again. I told myself I was curious. In reality, I didn't want to admit that something had unsettled me. The playground was still there, but the bunny wasn't under the slide anymore. It was sitting on one of the swings. The swing hung perfectly still, chains straight, seat unmoving. The bunny sat centered on it, facing the path directly this time, facing me. The fur looked soft, even in the low light, too clean, too bright against the dull metal and sand. There was no sign of anyone nearby, no footprints leading to the swing, no marks in the sand. It was just there, balanced, as if gravity worked differently for it. I stopped walking. I stared at it longer than I should have. There was something else I didn't notice at first. It wasn't just standing there. It was positioned. Not like a person who had stopped walking. More like someone who had decided to appear natural. Its hands weren't hanging loosely anymore. They were folded together low in front of its body, almost politely, like someone waiting in line, or someone being photographed. The head tilted slightly when I shifted my weight. Not enough to call it movement. Just enough to suggest it had adjusted to me, like it was mirroring the way I stood. I told myself that was impossible. Costumes don't correct their posture. Mascots don't hold still the way people do when they know they're being watched. But the longer I looked, the more it felt like the bunny wasn't pretending to be human. It felt like it had watched humans long enough to learn the parts it needed. How to stand without swaying, how to wait without fidgeting, how to face someone without blinking. And the most unsettling part wasn't the way it stood. It was the timing. Because every time I decided to look away, that was when it seemed most comfortable. Like it preferred being observed indirectly, through reflections, through cameras, through the idea of me noticing. As if it understood something very simple. That people don't panic when something moves. They panic when something knows how not to. I walked faster after that. When I got home, I checked a map, satellite view, street view, Old photos. There was no playground behind my building. There never had been. Just trees. I laughed out loud. Laughing makes things smaller, less serious, manageable. I said, okay, sure. A disappearing playground and a creepy bunny. Very funny. I slept badly. At 3:12 a.m., my phone buzzed with a motion alert from the camera in my hallway. I opened the app. The camera showed my front door and the mirror opposite it. For a few seconds, nothing moved. Then, in the mirror's reflection, I saw a white shape near the door. Long ears, rounded head. The bunny, but it wasn't standing in front of the mirror. It was only visible inside the reflection. In the mirror, the hallway looked longer than it really is. Darker. And in that longer version of my hallway, the bunny stood perfectly still, facing the camera. Its fur in the reflection looked less clean, more worn. One ear bent at an unnatural angle. The stitch smile slightly crooked. Behind it, deeper in that impossible hallway, I thought I saw another shape. Taller, narrow, hooded, holding something at chest height. A notebook, a sketch pad. I turned on every light in my apartment. There was nothing there. When I replayed the clip, the reflection was normal. Just my empty hallway. 3 nights later, I took the path again. The playground was back, closer to the edge of the trees this time. And the bunny was standing at the entrance where the path meets the sand. Not sitting, standing upright. Feet planted, arms hanging loosely at its sides. The fur caught the weak light and reflected it just enough to make the shape clear. White, but dull at the edges. The ears uneven now, one slightly folded. I didn't step into the playground. I walked around it, keeping my distance. As I passed, I had the strange sensation that it wasn't looking at me. It was looking at where I had been the night before, as if tracking a pattern. When I got home, there was a piece of paper taped to my door. I didn't open the door fully. I slid my phone under the gap and took a photo. It was a drawing, a simple playground, a slide, swings, sand, and in the corner, a bunny, round head, long ears, stitched smile. Underneath, 3 words. You built this. I worked in municipal planning, permits, demolitions, new construction. Last year, I approved the removal of an old playground behind my building to make space for additional parking. I don't remember there being a bunny there, but when I searched through archived photos, I found one. A ribbon-cutting event from years ago. A small playground in that exact spot, and near the swings stood a mascot, a white bunny, smiling too wide, standing just a little too still. That night I stayed awake. Around 4 a.m., I heard something in the hallway outside my apartment. Not footsteps, not knocking, a soft dragging sound, like fabric moving slowly across the floor. Then a faint shift, as if something had lowered itself to sit down right outside my door. I checked the camera. The hallway was empty, but in the mirror's reflection, the hallway was longer again, darker. And at the far end of that stretched reflection, the bunny stood upright, closer than before. The fur looked matted now, less like a costume. The head tilted slightly. The stitched smile hadn't changed, but it felt more appropriate now, because the longer I stared, the more the reflection behind it began to look like sand, like a slide, like a playground. And for a moment, I couldn't tell if the bunny had followed me home, or if I had always been the one standing inside its playground.